man will stay stuck at the emotional maturity of the little boy based on the timestamp that he's frozen in. Imagine a little boy dealing with everything that you have going on in your life today. That's a lot for a little child to manage or handle, right? And that's where most people are operating emotionally from. And this is why business, relationships, life is so overwhelming, because their emotional capacity is literally like of a little child.
Welcome back to another episode of Conversations That Count. I'm your host, Jeihan. Today's conversation is one I've been excited to share because it's the mirror for every man who feels the pressure to lead, provide, and perform, while quietly holding emotional wounds from years or even decades ago. My guest is known for helping men heal their inner boy, the part of them still stuck in a moment of childhood pain, and how that pain continues to show up in their business, in their relationships, and emotional triggers. We talk about trauma, nervous system overwhelm, safe masculine leadership, and how men can expand their capacity emotionally, relationally, and spiritually by turning inward and reclaiming the parts of themselves they've abandoned. Whether you're a man walking this path or a woman wanting to understand the masculine journey more deeply, this episode is full of insights, tools, and permission slips. Let's dive in.
I'm super excited to have you here, especially with the work that you do with men as well, you're known for healing the inner boy for men to, I guess, step into their power and reclaim their power and the level of success that they're chasing. So maybe if we can talk into that in a little bit more, and what does that actually mean, healing the inner boy?
Love it. And I appreciate you having me on, because I love sharing this work, and especially on a podcast, like being able to really speak into this. So there's so much nuance and there's so much to this, but in a nutshell, basically healing the boy and what the inner child looks like is the younger parts of us today that is still stuck and frozen in that timestamp of the unresolved trauma that we experienced in childhood, or our unmet developmental needs that we didn't have met in childhood, where we didn't get to progress past that stage of development in childhood. And until we progress past those stages, or we are able to resolve those parts of us that are still frozen in that time of energy because they didn't have the safe, loving presence that we needed in that period of time, we stay stuck and frozen in that state of consciousness. And what happens is a man will stay stuck at the emotional maturity and level of consciousness of the little boy based on the timestamp that he's frozen in, which is what trauma is. Like when emotion or when an event or an experience is too overwhelming, or there's a period of time in childhood it's too overwhelming. We're not having our core emotional needs met. We don't have the safe, loving presence that we needed to really be in our own emotional experience and feel what's seeking to be felt, or claim the strength that we're supposed to gain in that stage of development. It becomes overwhelming for the nervous system, and it's like we freeze in that moment where you shut down, we freeze, and it's like a timestamp. Now, what happens is, through what's called implicit memory, our body doesn't know the difference between that timestamp and this moment right now. So someone might say something to you, your partner might bring something to you, and it triggers that exact same experience that you had in that timestamp that you're still frozen in. And then what happens is what's called age regression. We regress back into that state of consciousness. So this is where a man can be 40 years old, but when he's triggered, he's actually operating from the consciousness of the 7-year-old boy who experienced, let's say, emotional abandonment from his father because his father wasn't emotionally present for him. And it's like he's in relationship today, but that relationship is reminding him of that unresolved timestamp of trauma of when he was a little boy. He didn't feel that emotional connection with his father. And this is how it's, until we go back and we connect him with those younger parts of us, they'll continue to show up today, and a man will continue to operate from the consciousness of a boy. And I like to explain it like this. Like, imagine a little boy or a little girl. If you're listening to this right now, imagining a little boy or a little girl dealing with everything that you have going on in your life today. That would be extremely overwhelming for them. That's a lot for a little child to manage or handle, right? And that's where most people are operating emotionally or consciously. Like that's the level of consciousness they're actually operating from. And this is why business, relationships, life is so overwhelming for them, because their emotional capacity is literally like of a little child. So what happens, especially for men, as men are, for the most part, the majority, this is my opinion, we are very, we hold a lot, we lead a lot, like we give, we're providers. And with that, sometimes it feels like we're holding the weight of the world on our shoulders. And this is where things become very easily overwhelming for men when they've got all these decisions they need to make. They've got this relationship that they're, supposed to be leading, or they want to be leading, but they're not because they don't have the emotional bandwidth, or they have this relationship that's seeking more of them. And this is why, until we go back and heal those younger parts that are keeping him stuck at that capacity of the boy, by healing those younger parts, we create space for the man to awaken, the man who has the capacity. So it's like going from like a little shot glass, like a little cup, to a bucket. Like that's the capacity. And it's a continuous journey of holding the younger parts of you. So your higher self. So what I'm really speaking of here, the boy is the wounded parts of us, the younger parts of us, and for the most part, I'm speaking of the wounding, because we also have incredible traits that we developed in childhood. Until we reclaim those parts of us, as I shared, that a man will continue walking through life as the boy. So
you mentioned like like the 40-year-old now, they could be operating from that smaller self or child frozen back in time. What are some more of those traits, or how would they recognize that they're operating from that younger self? So you mentioned in a state of overwhelm, but how do they know, like, oh, I've got parts here that I need to heal? Like, how would that be expressed?
A safe man is a man who has the capacity and awareness to sit with his triggers and really be with what's present for him, like truly seeking his attention that's coming up for him. Where he's able to hold those younger parts of him, and he then has the capacity to show up as the man and hold space and provide and give with his safe presence, right? And that's the byproduct of what happens when we do this deep inner work, is the safe man, is the integrated conscious masculine man. That's the byproduct of him reclaiming these younger parts of him, the little boy, and healing those parts. How, for the most part, it shows up for men is it's kind of based on, I've worked with hundreds of men all over the world, and based on my experience, it takes them to go through a breakdown in their relationship where their partner's either about to leave them or their partner walks out and leaves. Yeah. And just from what I've experienced, men can be very good at, their ego can be very, very strong. And it prevents them from really leaning in and feeling and being with what's actually seeking their attention, the unresolved grief from their childhood. So from my experience, it takes, on the majority, quite a lot for a man to get to that point of, okay, I'm going to lean in and do this work. And for the most part, normally it's a relationship breakdown or a complete loss of self. But you can begin to listen to those triggers earlier on. And those triggers could be the subtle frustration that you feel on a daily basis. It could be the overwhelm that you experience in your relationship where, let's say, your partner brings something to you and it's just like you don't know what to say because your body's gone into shutdown because conflict or hard, deep conversations are actually so overwhelming for your nervous system because you didn't have that safety or that loving presence as a little boy.
Yeah.
So allowing yourself to really see the subtle triggers that you experience as invitations to be curious as to what's there. And if someone's listening to this right now, this is an opportunity to really begin to become curious of these triggers that arise for you in relationships, in business and whatnot.
What I'm really interested as well, like a lot of, and this is a massive generalization, and again, like from my perspective as well, is that people, and this is applicable to women as well, right? They go through life and they reach a level of success and they go, well, I'm here, but not recognizing that if they actually do, they turn inwards and start to focus on themselves, get curious, have a look at triggers, that it's an invitation and an opportunity for them to grow through that and go to the next level. So yeah, like happy for you to talk into that as well. And yeah, what they would recognize as well, and how would someone, when they are that successful businessman or they are that successful business person, or they might have kids or they might be married and they have all the things, or the checkbox of what society said that they should have, right? And they're providing in certain ways. How do they know that they still have the unresolved things there where life is good? How do they then unlock that next level?
Yeah. Typically it shows up in the subtle worry, doubt, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, irritability, all these subtle little signs of your nervous system being in this state of dysregulation, mood swings, constant like disconnection in your relationship, struggling to speak your truth, struggling to speak like your needs, where let's say you're lacking connection in your relationship, but you actually don't know or how to express or communicate your needs or your wants or your desires because you're so worried about them being rejected or shut down. And by the way, this is men and women, but you know, I just focus on men. Like I just work with men, but if you're a woman listening to this, you can be curious as to what could be present here for you as well. And for the most part, that's it. It's just being curious with and how these subtle triggers show up for you. So let's say like a trigger could be, and it'll be in such a subtle way where if a man can just be irritable, and this used to be me, like I used to just be moody and very, very irritable very easily. And I just thought that was me. There was actually a common theme in my family. It's like, oh, that's just the Moresby-White gene. Like that was said to me so many times. It's like, oh yes, all Moresby-White. So that's my last name, by the way. Grumpy and irritable.
So you take on that identity.
Yeah. And I thought that was normal. So until that really started to affect my relationships, and beneath that was this little boy who had unresolved grief from childhood because of the emotional disconnection that was in the family and generationally. So this irritability, these mood swings, this constant overwhelm or reactivity or shutdown in relationships was this little boy within me who was actually still stuck in a state of survival. And it shows up as these subtle little things of like worry, doubt, anxiety, insecurity, irritability. And that over a long enough period of time in relationship and business just slowly eats away at things. And this is why it's like, it takes a man to be truly have a strong enough why to want to do this work, to want to really integrate the boy. And this is something that, as I shared, men and women need to do, but this is something that every man needs on the entire planet. Like every man needs this work.
Yeah.
No matter where you are within yourself, every man needs this. The highest functioning people in the world, such as let's say Tony Robbins, right? He needs this stuff. He embodies this stuff. Like and he always speaks about holding the younger parts of you and integrating the younger parts of you. And so I believe like you can really become aware and become curious. And curious is just being like, I'm feeling a bit irritable right now, or a bit moody, or I'm feeling this worry or anxiousness. And beneath that, it's just being curious and creating the space to actually just be curious as to what's actually beneath that. Because the emotional body is what actually signals the thinking. So let's say a man who's got a little boy, a younger part of him that's scared that he's going to be abandoned or rejected in this moment, then signals thoughts of anxiousness of this person might leave me or reject me, or I need to be super careful of what I say right now, because if I say the wrong thing, then people won't like me. And it's the unresolved emotion in the body that actually signals the thinking.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to, really, it's like a safe man. He's got this like quiet presence about him. Yeah.
I love that so much. You're so right though. Like if we all met ourselves and each other in curiosity, it would change the game on so many different levels, right? And our body is always communicating to us, but we get so caught up in the busyness of life and the doing of what's next rather than actually sitting with that feeling and going, okay, what is that and what's the root cause of that? Rather than, as you said, get out of the thinking into the body, because there's so many messages there as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned about like you accepted a part of your identity because of your family. What was the turning point for you that you went from, rather than accepting that's just the way I am and that's just the way that the family is, what was that real kind of turning point that you're going, do you know what? I now have the ability to change this. And how did you change that?
Yeah. I take men through this work called family consolation therapy. And in that it's, yes, there's the unresolved younger parts of us, of the little boy. And that little boy was once within a family system. And a family system works just like any other system, that there's different moving parts. And the single parts in the system affect the entire system. So if you look at the ecosystem, right? If there's parts of nature that are out of balance, it affects all the other parts. So when there's disconnection in the family system, it affects all of the parts. So if mum and dad are disconnected from themselves emotionally, it affects all the parts in the sense of we all start taking on certain roles in order to bring balance back into the family system. So this is where we take on those different roles in order to bring the system back into balance and harmony. Now, where things really shifted for me was when I realized that how I had been doing my life wasn't working. It was when I got to the point where I was 21 years old. I was running a successful carpentry business in construction. I was doing all these amazing things externally. And I got to the point where I just became so depressed that I just wanted to kill myself. And it took for me to get to that rock bottom, to that point in my journey, in the hero's journey, to really take a deep, long, hard look at myself. And I got out of my environment in the sense of I went overseas and did some self-reflection. And with that, I decided, you know what, no matter what I do, I'm going to make my highest priority putting my happiness first. For a little boy who took on the responsibility of his parents' emotions and trying to bring their marriage back together once they divorced, I was taken out of my childhood, right? I didn't have the safe, loving presence to just be a curious, playful, open, present child. I was taken out of my childhood and put into this role of emotional support system. I had to be the one who held it together, or tried to bring everyone back together, right? So because I was taken out of my childhood, because survival is more important to us as humans, and the survival of the system, of the family system, is so much more important to us, that I abandoned myself from the youngest age because I had to. I had to be and become whoever I needed to be in order to make sure the family system was good, or that I was going to get my survival needs met of love and connection. So at the youngest age, I abandoned myself and became whoever I needed to be, the nice guy, the people pleaser. I will become whoever you need me to be. I'll be a chameleon, whatever. And that led to an entire life of abandoning myself and never really doing the things that I wanted to do, because it was always about what everyone else wanted. And it was never this, I didn't have the safe, loving presence to just be in my own childhood and develop a strong connection to myself and really be in tune with my own emotional experience and prioritize, what it is that I want to do in the world, right? So what happens is, because of that level of self-abandonment and then that role that I had to play in the system, I didn't have the foundations in childhood to develop a strong identity, a sense of self. So and at the deepest level, what's happening here is a disconnection from the soul. Who I am at my core is, there's something inherently wrong with who I am. I need to be something other than myself, which is a disconnection from self, right? So I built this false self of an entire life being and becoming whoever I needed to be, and never neglecting what it is that I wanted. So when I went away and decided that I'm going to put my happiness first, that was the decision to, for the first time, actually listen to my heart, my soul, and what I wanted, which was happiness. And it was like that. So I made the decision, and then things that led from that, I was like, cool, I need to get around some different people. So I placed myself in a different environment where I started getting around the personal development community, around different people, started thinking differently, started surrounding myself with people who were living the life that I wanted to live. And this is where, things really started to change. That was the initiation to my journey, was hitting that rock bottom and deciding to choose me. Yeah. And it wasn't just choosing me in that moment. What was actually happening was I was reclaiming the little boy within me who felt that he had to be a certain way in the world. Yeah.
By reclaiming that person and focusing on you, how did that then have the ripple effect or like out into other areas of your life, whether it is business or relationships? So was there a switch or a change that you noticed there as well?
Absolutely. So I stepped away from carpentry, stepped away from business, and it was more, this is me starting to develop a life that was more in alignment with who I am, which was, I love helping people. As a little boy, I was just so curious, and I just asked so many questions.
Yeah.
And that was a lot for my parents, because they had their stuff going on and I needed to be their emotional support system. So I just shut up, put myself in a box and minimized myself and just became whoever I needed to be, right? So this was the journey of me really starting to come back to myself and developing a sense of self. So how that looked was, I don't want to be in construction. I don't like, this is not me. This is not what I actually want to do. I love helping people, and I always wanted to help people, but my system, so we got the family system, and then we got the societal system as well. The schooling system, your friends' systems, all of it. So we're all within a system. And based on the conditioning of that system that I was brought up within, the conditioning was, you can't be successful coaching or being like helping people. If you want to do that, you have to go to university. You have to be a therapist. You have to go work for professional football teams or something like that. And my system told me that I'm not smart enough to do that. And I have to go work physically with my hands, because that's all you'll be good at. And our system, our environment is more important than us developing a connection to ourselves and living in alignment with what it is that we want. So I listened to that, and I built this false self. So I was in construction, and that was so misaligned to who I was, where I'd wake up every morning and I fucking hated it. I hated it. I was good at it, but I hated it. And that showed. And like I said, it got to that point where I was like, every day I was waking up doing the same thing. I absolutely hated it. My relationship suffered. I went through a breakup. I hit rock bottom, and then I wanted to kill myself. Yeah. So eventually the false self will get to the point where you climb to the top of the ladder, right? And you realize this is not it. This is not where I want to be. Or you get halfway up the ladder and you just, fuck this. I can't keep going. And that was it for me. And I'm very grateful it happened at a young age. But that journey was me starting to align myself with who I truly am, which is I love to help people. And what that looked like was, and this is where my vision really started to come from, was through this journey of me. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was like, I just made this decision that I'm just going to put my happiness first. I'm going to choose me. I'm going to go to these events. I'm going to surround myself with these people. I'm going to go to the I'm going to read the books, listen to the podcasts. And I was just starting to think differently. And throughout that, I just birthed this vision of, first of all, I know that I just love to help people, and I want to help. This is where my spiritual awakening really started to unfold. I was just this vision of, I just want to help as many men as I possibly can. Yeah. I want to impact millions of men all over the world. I have no idea how I'm going to do that, but I just know that I want every man to experience this when I'm experiencing this sense of this sense of happiness. I never experienced like true happiness before, right? I was getting into breath work. I was starting to really develop this connection with myself. And I was like, holy shit, like every man needs to experience this. So I started to birth this vision. I didn't know the how, but I just knew that, cool, I'm just going to start helping people. So I became a personal trainer. So I began in the fitness space, and I worked on the gym floor coaching athletes and people for 4 or 5 years. Yep. But throughout that journey, I knew that this is just the beginning. And it was a constant, while I was coaching, I was leaning in and doing the deep inner work myself. And as that unfolded, it became deeper and deeper into somatics and inner child work and healing the boy and reclaiming the younger parts of me. And this hero's journey, right, to where I am today, where I now get to share these gifts with the world, is why I know like what I'm here to do and bring. And kind of tracking back to the system that I was raised in, like my vision and my dream is to, I know by helping men becoming the best men possible, that they can be the safe masculine, where they can truly show up in their relationships and build their dream life and be happy and experience that sense of euphoria within themselves. They will have beautiful, thriving relationships, and then children can grow up in families that are connected emotionally. And I know what that will do for the world. Yeah. So like, that's my devotion and my commitment. And that's what I didn't have as a little boy. And now I get to give that gift to the world because I've walked through that fire myself. So that was the journey from construction, carpentry, being an athlete, to personal training, to trying to figure it out for 7 years up until what I do today, which is, I now get to share this deep inner child work with men, helping them heal the younger part of them that's keeping them stuck in that false sense of self and that disconnection from self.
You've got such a beautiful story, and I know that there's so many people that are going to resonate with that as well, both men and women. And I know that you focus purely on men, but this work is every single person should be doing it. And what you just said there was so beautiful, is that when you work on yourself and you heal the wounds from your childhood, you break that cycle. So then when you have children, or if you have children now, that you're giving them what you needed when you're a child. So you're giving them a different upbringing. So when they're raised, they're have a deeper connection with self, deeper connection with others as well. And they are creating a different ripple effect into the world as well. So I love your passion, and like I'm equally as passionate about this work as well. And as I said, every single person in this world should have access to being able to do this work, because it's, helps them be the best person that they can be as well. How would you define, like you mentioned happiness a few times, what does happiness mean to you, and how would you define that? Pretty big question.
Yeah. Something I'm definitely, I'm never really working on being happy. It's more, how much can I experience the full range of the human experience, where I'm no longer operating from the wounding, the shadow, but it's more from the integrated self. And that's loving and accepting all parts of me. So there's, I would say for the most part, it's chasing alignment more so than happiness. Yeah, I'm definitely not chasing happiness. I know that that's a byproduct, and it's a human experience that happens when you're in alignment with your true self.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, there's definitely times where you know, I still experience the full range of human emotions.
Yeah.
The grief, the sadness, the loneliness. And typically through the other side of actually feeling that is this sense of joy or happiness. That's on the, it's like joy. I see joy and happiness as two different things. Joy is like this experience of euphoria that you feel. It's just deep sense of connection and openness and just curiosity and playfulness. Like that's joy. That's pure joy. I feel that happiness is the integration of just the entire human experience of feeling and being with it all. Just fucking giving life just everything you have and just doing your best to live in alignment with what it is that just lights you up or excites you. What makes me happy is being down here doing a podcast, going to do another podcast, going to hang out with my friends, going to do some business, building something of impact, right? Being able to travel the world. It's like there's still all of the full range of human emotion that comes up in me doing all of those things. But on a macro scale, like, yeah, like that's what I feel happiness is. It's like alignment.
Doing what you love. Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Like you need to kind of experience both to appreciate both at the same time, like, you know, light and dark, or as you said, the grief, but then it makes you appreciate those other moments so much more as well. Rather than, I feel like there's a lot of people that when they're disconnected with themselves, there's a sense of numbness that comes with that as well. And just kind of feel like that's coasting in a way, where when you open that up and you heal, you can actually feel so much more, and it gives you that energetic capacity to hold more as well. So yeah, that's great. I want to talk more into masculine and feminine energies as well. So you spoke about masculine as well and the integrated masculine. Can you maybe talk into that a little bit more? And then I want to bring in like the feminine element as well. So what does like true masculinity mean to you? You mentioned like safety and the providing. Is there anything more that to add to that as well?
Yeah. The integrated masculine is a man who's integrated in both the masculine and the feminine, right? So he's actually owned and accepted both parts of him, two sides.
Yeah.
We all have masculine and feminine energy, and it's a man who's integrated the both of those. That's the integrated masculine, right? For the most part, we're already balanced in our masculine and feminine energy when we're operating from our true self. When a little boy goes through his stages of development and claims the strengths that he was supposed to gain as a little boy through his stages of development with safe, loving, masculine presence, this foundation of support behind him, he naturally gains the strengths of being an integrated, safe man who just shows up and provides and who is emotionally connected to himself. And this is why, like, I used to teach masculine and feminine polarity work. Like that was my thing. And I was like, everyone needs to know about this. Everyone needs to do this work. Until I realized through my own journey that a lot of that was just this fucking spiritual fugazi thing that was up here. This energy, this polarity, this masculine, this man's got to be this certain way, the woman's got to be a certain way. And if she's not like that, then, and for me, it was like when she wasn't in her feminine, then it would completely shake me. It would fuck me up.
Yeah.
And it would rattle me. Because I wasn't really anchored in myself, because there's so much more beneath just being more in your masculine or feminine energy, so much more. until I realized that when a man goes back and connects with those younger parts of himself and gains the strengths that he was supposed to gain at each stage of development, the byproduct of that is the safe man, is the king and the warrior archetypes, right? So if you think of the king and the warrior archetypes for the most part, I'm just speaking more of the masculine. As I shared, he also has the feminine aspects as well. But the king and the warrior archetypes is a man who's, so for the warrior, if you think of the energy or the archetype of a warrior, he lives by his sword. There's a reason I wear this sword necklace, right? It's the honoring and the commitment to my mission. It's the honoring and commitment to myself of being the best man I can possibly be. A warrior fucking fights for what he believes in.
Yeah.
And it's the claiming of self. Like, this is what I believe in, and I'm willing to die for this. This is my commitment. This is my devotion. And that's typically towards his mission or what it is that, he wants to build or create in the world, right? And in that claiming, in that devotion, the reason I wear this is because in order for me to create the level of impact I want to create in the world, the man that I have to become in that journey is what's most important. Yeah. Because that man I know that's going to create that level of impact is going to be the man that creates a sense of safety for his family that I didn't have as a little boy. And that's part of my honoring of the sword. Yeah. Now that's the warrior. And if you think of the warrior energy, he's not angry, but he's integrated his anger and he's turned it into passion and controlled aggression. So a safe man is actually a man who can defend himself and protect his family. Yeah. And what that also looks like is him being able to fucking own his no. Yeah. Like capital N, like own his no.
It's a healthy expression of it all, right?
Because when a man can't own his no, he lacks boundaries. And this is what we call the nice guy. And he allows people to just walk over him. And because he, as a little boy, when we don't claim our anger or have a safe space for our anger, we don't learn healthy boundaries. Because anger is a protector emotion, and it's how we actually create, this is my space. Yeah. And this is my right, this is my space, and this is my boundary. Yeah. And if you don't have that anger, you don't have a boundary, right? And then you allow people to just walk over you. And this is where a man will be in relationship and he becomes easily reactive, easily shut down. He becomes passive aggressive because he has no boundaries, but the anger comes out because it's actually his protection, right? So he's got all this built up resentment and suppressed anger because he doesn't actually have boundaries and he can't own his no. So a warrior, like he's got that energy of like, this is what I believe in. These are my boundaries. These are my standards, right? And this is what I am standing for in the world. Then we've got the king. And as I just shared in that journey of the stage of development, that little boy had the safety to claim his anger. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like these are natural byproducts of a man healing these younger parts of himself. When he had the safety to be in his anger and express his anger, he then naturally becomes integrated in this, right? Then there's the king. You think of the king as like the visionary, the one who leads, makes decisions. The king archetype takes for a man to be quite in tune with the spiritual world as well, with the unseeable. Because if you think of a visionary, and this is where the masculine energy and a powerful king can bring a vision into the physical world. Yeah. So when a man has that connection to his heart, he's able to listen to something that's greater than him and allow himself to receive a vision that he can then bring into the physical world. Yeah. So look at like a king building his kingdom. He has a vision of the kingdom that he wants to create for the greater good of the people in the kingdom. That's the healthy king, right? And with that vision, he creates the leadership, the direction, right? He leads the frame. But then his inner warrior is the one who actually goes and actions it and makes it happen. Yeah. So this is just the byproduct of, this is what a safe man is. Yeah. It's a man who can really hold himself, own his no, because of the deep connection that he has to his heart. He can bring his visions into the physical. What that looks like in relationship is what we call provision, provision. a man can see, the king archetype, a man can really see something before it's actually manifested in the physical world.
Yeah.
That's what men are really good at. We're able to have a vision of, this is what I want to create. And then we go out there and we build the business and create the thing and become really successful at it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm generalizing here, but as the masculine, that's the energy of men are great at provision, right?
Yeah.
So in relationship, a man can see the vision of the relationship very early on. This is why when it's the right relationship, a man is just
straight away,
this is it, I'm in, I'm committed, because he can see the vision of what it is that this relationship could turn into. And when a woman can trust that provision, right, that's where there's this sense of leadership that comes from him in the relationship.
Mm.
If he's a good man, if he is operating from his heart, his provision will be something of truth and in the direction of the greater good, right? But if he's operating from the wounded ego of the little boy who's still seeking to have his wounded needs met through this relationship, his provision will be tainted, and he'll be looking through the lens. He'll be looking at the world through the lens of his unresolved trauma from childhood, and this is where he misleads.
Yeah.
Because it's actually the little boy leading, seeking to fulfill something in the future that is missing within him and was missing in his childhood. So when a man has integrated the younger part of him, his provision into the future is more clear, is more of deeper truth and not from wounding. And when a woman can trust that from a man who's here and operating from here, it's incredible what can happen. Yeah.
So with a guy that's in his divine masculine or integrated masculine, what does he look for? And this is a generalization and probably like more of a personal take on it. What does he look for in a relationship from a feminine perspective?
I'll speak from my experience, and it's devotion.
Yeah.
What's so important to me is, and what's super attractive to me and what I look for is a woman who's deeply devotional. What that means or looks like is, first and foremost, she's devotional to herself and her truth and what it is that she wants to birth into the world. And she's in devotion to herself first, because if she's not connected to herself and she's not in devotion to herself, and if she doesn't have a life of her own, she's not going to be able to show up for me in the relationship or meet me in relationship, right? So first and foremost, her devotion to her feminine expression, to her womanhood, to her sisterhood, to her creation in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because that will just carry over into how she devotes herself in relationship. So what's important to me is what I just shared on that provision is a devotional woman has this sense of surrender and trust of a man's provision of where he's taking and leading us, right? Leading the relationship. Because when that devotion isn't there for this man's provision, she'll question his leadership all of the time. Yeah. And over time, slowly emasculate him, where he'll just stop leading. He'll stop trying to provide his leadership in through his provision. Yeah.
So if because I know so many incredible women doing this work, healing themselves as well, have now created businesses as well, which does have that element of masculinity in it as well, and their ambition and drive and the creation side of it as well. I'm assuming for a masculine man, he might typically meet the feminine when she's in that as well, that creation mode, and potentially a little bit in her masculine as well. Is that then a repellent, do you think, for that man if he actually meets her in that? Or is it an invitation then for him to step up? Or how does that then dynamics work if you're both in creation mode as well, and you both are visionaries at the same time? Is that then a repellent or a clash?
So when a man awakens this greater capacity from after, integrating the younger parts of him that are small.
Yeah.
Right? he's no longer operating small and he's got a greater capacity. And when he's operating from that place, he has more capacity to hold the full spectrum of a woman, which is her masculine and her feminine, which is her as a boss in her business and also her as a devotional woman in relationship and as a partner. When a man has reclaimed these younger parts of him, the little boy within him, and he's operating from the safe masculine and he's met the depth of himself, he will also have the discernment between a woman who's a boss babe in business operating from her unresolved masculine wounds, right? And he'll see right through that. I see right through it all the time. And a lot of the times people use their business as their like trauma baby. Yeah. And their business is just an expression of their trauma. But the thing is they're not, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, my business and what I do in the world has been birthed from my unresolved trauma from childhood. And now I get to share that from a place of integration. But when it's not coming from a place of integration, it's coming from a place of they're still seeking to resolve an unmet need, right? Most likely from their father as the masculine, now in the world, in business. So when we don't have our needs met in childhood, that need we then transfer to the world. I can get this need met by the world, from the world. So that, let's say a woman has a masculine wound, or she can't trust the masculine based on what she experienced with her father or the masculine in her system, right? She then transfers to get that validation from the world through her being overly in her masculine. So a man who's met the depth of himself will see right through that, yet he'll still, and he'll have the capacity within him in himself to say no, right? To like he can bring that awareness to her, right? And he can say no to a relationship if it's not in alignment with him. Or he has the capacity to hold her in her expression as she is just going throughout her journey. And
like break down that shield, right?
Yes.
I love how you actually explain that. Then I think that is a perfect take on women in their masculine as well, and really like just crave a man to actually be there. That's, I think, the biggest thing, to actually feel safe in it as well. I think that how you articulated that was perfect. I want to talk about it from a dating concept as well, because I feel like at the moment, and this is maybe my belief or my opinion, that there is a bit of a disconnect when it comes to dating or relating when it comes to personal growth as well. And as I said, I know so many people that are like women focusing on themselves and doing their own thing, and they know that they're good by themselves and they're just waiting for that divine masculine to come along. So then, you know, otherwise, like, they're not going to settle for anything less, right? Because they know who they are. And I feel like men are doing the same thing, but then might not necessarily be coming together because they're focusing on themselves too much. Do you feel like there's a disconnect there as well? Like it's then kind of creating to a need to, I need to heal more. I need to like focus on me rather than, hey, we can grow together. Like, have you experienced that from like your perspective and with the men that's in your world as well?
Yeah, great question. I feel that a byproduct of loneliness is self-isolation. And through self-isolation, we don't allow ourselves to be in community and meet people. Along with that is when a woman is still looking for a perfect man, she's still seeking to resolve something from her childhood. And she's not allowing herself, giving herself the opportunity to open to a man that's wanting to show up for her. The amount of men that I work with where they're actually like, they're in their divine masculine, whatever you want to call it, like they're in their power, they're leading, they're holding so much, they're providing, they're doing so much. But when a woman's still looking through the lenses of, I can't trust the masculine, or the masculine are unsafe, or I'm just going to be burned by the masculine again. She doesn't allow herself to actually receive a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I mean, like receive a man, is like receive his leadership, the ways that he is showing up. And this is where, when we have disregarded our shame in childhood, we're looking for the perfect person. We project that onto the world. Shame, healthy shame, is recognizing and seeing both sides, of seeing the good and the bad. So a healthy man, an integrated man, he's going to have his shit. It's going to come up. I still have my shit. My shit still comes up. But it's the capacity to be with it. And there's still women out there who are just looking for the perfect person. Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. And I'm actually sharing this from my projection as well, through the personal development space and world. It's like, I'm looking for this perfect woman, and it's just, that's just another mystification of childhood. So mystification is, if you think of like this fairy tale, this fantasy that you've created in your subconscious mind, where unconsciously you feel that there's just going to be this perfect person that's just going to come along and change everything. Yeah, that's a fantasy of the child that feels that one day someone's going to come along and save me from this emotion that I'm feeling right now in my childhood. And that's never going to happen. And it's allowing yourself to open to actually connect with people and actually receive a man's leadership as well.
One of the biggest lessons that I think I don't want to say like anchoring more into is that the people closest to you are always going to be a reflection for you of what you still need to heal, right? And in relationships or dating, people, like, as soon as that happens, then run, rather than going, hey, there's stuff here, let's like move through this together and grow through this together. So it's rather than finding the perfect person, it's like, who do I want to commit to and who do I want to grow with as well? Because it's always going to come up, right? Like, as you said, like, you've still got stuff, I've still got stuff. Like, like in 5 years' time, I'm still going to have stuff. Like, it's a constant journey of growth and evolution of who you are as a person and what you get to create. And it's choosing that person to go, okay, I want to create that with you.
Yes.
No matter what comes up, and having that safety and security within each other to actually be fully expressed in whatever that might be.
Yeah. And that's like the warrior. It's like, this is my sword. I'm putting my sword in the ground. This is what I'm committing to.
Yeah.
And then there's the devotional woman as well. Yeah. Of like, I'm devoted to this and working and growing through this with you. Yeah. It's like, when there's that, it's, you guys just work through it together. And obviously there needs to be discernment. If it's like, if nothing changes, no one's doing the work, or one person's doing the work and the other one's just closed off and just and nothing's just happening and nothing's changing, then there's a decision that needs to be made. There's something that needs to be grieved and let go of. But for the most part, it's like, I want to be in partnership. I'm not currently in partnership right now. But I want to be in partnership with someone who doesn't run when things get hard. When that doesn't run, or doesn't run when, when these things come up. Yeah. That wants to choose to lean in, and that's the devotion piece. It's like, I'm devoted to this. I'm devoted to you. I'm devoted to us. And like, I'm here no matter what. Yeah.
I love that so much. For women who are listening to this and they're like, I want my partner to do this work, what are your thoughts or ideas around how would you encourage your man to actually do this work without saying, I want you to change, and potentially emasculating him through the process as well?
By no longer mothering him. Yeah. And what that looks like is,
it's a perfect word.
Yeah. Trying to take care of him and want him to be another way than what he is, because for the most part, he maybe didn't receive the love that he needed from the motherly energy as a boy, whether that's from his mum or his dad. And to criticize him into doing the work, like, hey, like, you need to do this work, like, I'm doing this work, whatever. How much can you love this man for where he's at? And how much can you just love him and choose him and devote to him, and also hold your boundaries as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not lose yourself to him and to it. And that, for me, is more of an invitation for me to go, I love how, like, you know, I love how you're showing up. I like, whoa, like, thank you for acknowledging me and respecting me. And that's more of an invitation for him to do the work than criticizing him into doing the work. So her holding her boundaries and her also owning her no as well will break the cycle for him around the little boy in relationships seeking to be mothered. When she's no longer playing the role of the mother, that's when he'll stop playing the role of the little boy, or the little boy will get really activated. And we play in relationship, we take on these dynamics of the little boy after 6 to 12 months starts to come out and he starts to get his unresolved needs met. Same with a woman as well. And if she's like, if I could just fix him and just change him, which is saying that you can't love him for who he is, which is saying that you have a fantasy of who he could be, which that means that that's not actually who he is. And that's fantasy, as I shared before, is the mystification of childhood. This is mystery. It's this fantasy that you've created of who this man can be. Now, there is power in that as well. The feminine will also see right through into a man's potential.
Yeah.
And that's discerning whether that's coming from her fantasy of who he could be or truly actually seeing his potential. Yeah. And if he's willing to listen, the invitations from the feminine into his potential is the greatest gift that he can receive from the feminine. And what that could be is, instead of her criticizing him into doing the work, she could support him and celebrate him, and then bring awareness to him, be like, awareness. She can bring awareness to him in a very healthy way. Yeah. There's a very healthy way to communicate it, and not through the shadow feminine, which is manipulation. A lot of women will manipulate or try and say the right thing, or say like subtle little jabs, right? Or the criticism or the control. That's the shadow feminine, instead of a woman just speaking her truth. Yeah. And what that would look like is, and this would be a healthy way for a man in relationship to be invited to step up into his potential. This is her speaking to him and bringing this to him. It would go along the lines something like this: like, I see how much you're showing up. I see how hard you're working, and I'm so fucking grateful for it. I know that you're putting your life on the line every day for our family, because every man is. I work with hundreds of men all over the world, and at their core, they are going to war every day. They are going to battle every day to provide for their family, at the core of it, right? By her acknowledging him and seeing him, and then like actually respecting him, acknowledging him, and sharing where he is showing up, what he is doing well. And then her bringing to him awareness of how he could show up better. It's like, yes, you show up like this, and I'm so grateful for it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I would love to be more connected to you emotionally. And what I would love in that is us to have more quality time together. Yeah. And whatever you need to do to make that happen, I'm no longer fucking waiting for that. Like, I want you. Yeah. Right. And that's a healthy way of her bringing awareness to him and challenging him to step up and no longer being the boy and being small, operating from those younger parts. And this is why it's so important for him to have healthy masculine men around him and leaders, and for him to be doing this work so he can take those invitations, bring it to his bros, and either step up, right, or continue to just keep doing what he's always been doing, or say no if she's operating from her wounding. He actually has the ability within himself to go, you know what, that's not right for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think also like the females, if they're wanting their man to change, it's like you go first and have that as the invitation as well. And then, as you said, know your own standards and your boundaries and your definition of no as well. And that potentially could unravel a totally different path for both of you.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's lead by example, and they will follow, or they will step up.
One thing with the wounded inner child is we seesaw. We go on this seesaw of I'm either above you or you're below me, right? So this is where, and I see it all the time, you begin your personal development journey and you start doing some deep inner work. You start realizing some things. You start becoming better. And all of a sudden, you're now looking down on your partner. And you're like, you should be doing this work too. And when we're seesawing, it's the little boy or it's the little girl who's actually activated, where I'm either above you or you're below me, which is the pedestaling, which is, and when we pedestal or when we look down on people, right, we're not operating from the man or the woman of I see you and I see your potential as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not above or below. I am the same as you. And I want the best for you.
Yeah.
It's not I'm above or below. And that seesaw is, I see it all the time in the personal development space where it's like, a woman will do the work and then she starts looking down on her partner, but she's not seeing the way that this man fucking provides every day and how he provides. Because she's not looking through the eyes of the woman. She's looking through the eyes of the little girl of like her arms crossed. You need to be doing this work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like if I ever find myself in that situation, whether it's like in friendships as well, where I'm looking externally, whether they're above, below, or however you want to describe it, I bring it back to myself. I'm like, what's the reflection here of me and how can I be better, or how can I like go through that?
Yep.
Because again, it's still a reflection of where you're at, and it's your opportunity to step further up and do more or be more. And that's why it's being reflected to you, or vice versa, right? So I always like, if I ever find myself externalizing and in that comparison or kind of judgment, I guess you could probably also call it, it's just like, okay, well, where am I not stepping up into my full potential?
Yeah, that self-responsibility.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything, I feel like we've covered off so much goodness and value in this conversation. Is there anything that you were hoping that I would ask that I didn't get an opportunity to ask, or a message that you wanted to share as well for listeners?
I feel like we've definitely covered a lot there, and to put a bow on it and to wrap up the conversation, I'd probably say if there's anything that triggered anything in this conversation and that you're curious about and that you know that maybe you're experiencing heavily right now, this is where you get to bring it to us. Ask the questions. If you know that there's someone in your corner who you can speak to what came up for you in this podcast, bring it to them. Like, this is the subtle, those small little triggers or the things that resonated with you, those are subtle little invitations of like, just being curious as to, what that brought up within me, and how does that land for me? How does that sit for me? And also having the discernment between, it's like, maybe I don't actually agree with anything they just shared. That's absolutely okay. And it's having that discernment, because when we're pedestaling, right, we're looking up at people, we're like, wow, these two people on a podcast talking about this topic, like that must be true, right? That's a huge, it's like anyone can have fucking podcast equipment, right? And it's having the discernment between what actually resonates with your truth and what doesn't. And yeah, just that's important to speak into, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really beautiful comment there as well. And I'll obviously share all your details as well at the end of in the notes as well for listeners to be able to follow you and access you as well. And yeah, your content is great, your message is great, and I love what you do. So yeah, looking forward to following the journey further and seeing what else you create and the impact that you create in the world. So thank you.
Thank you.